Hello and welcome back to the Film Odyssey podcast. My name is Salas Cicero,
And I'm Dan Dubon.
and today we will be discussing what the initial critical reactions to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 are, as well as what our most anticipated movies for the month of May are, including our thoughts on Beau is Afraid and How to Blow Up a Pipeline. And last but not least, what the consequences will be if Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 underperforms at the box office. So, welcome back to the podcast again. We are at the beginning of May. I cannot believe it. What about you?
Yeah, this year's gone by fast. We've already got some good movies out and already got some questionable ones. I think
Yes,
this year's definitely, I think, looking better movie-wise so far for me, and has been so far, been better compared to 2022.
absolutely. There's been, like you said, so many great movies that have come out. It's such an overwhelming amount of great movies.
Even like the whole month of March, it was like every single week and a big like blockbuster was coming out, and that was great because I feel like it's been such a long time since that happened.
This month is going to be even special, I'd say.
Gonna be
'Cause
even crazier, I think.
oh yeah, the box office is gonna be going absolutely insane this month, and I'm
Yeah.
very excited about that. But it also could go the other direction, which could be very scary too. But
Yeah.
that's what we're here to talk about today. The next Marvel movie of 2023 is arriving. That movie is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And critics have already spoken about their opinions towards it. And I say, for the most part, surprisingly, I never thought I'd say surprisingly, but a good amount actually have been saying some really good things about it.
Yeah, I think overall these like critical reactions have been like mostly positive. Obviously, you're gonna have a few
Yes.
people who are like, another shit MCU movie, but yeah, I think overall they've been positive, and it's making me, more excited to see this coming week when it releases on May 5th. So anyway, I kind of want to like transition to, since the month of May is coming up, it's kickstarting the summer movie season for this
Yes.
year. And there's not like a whole lot coming out in May, like not as much as March, but there are a few big movies coming out. Some of, that's we both are excited for.
Why don't you start, Dan? I'm going to allow you to start
All
with this
right.
one.
I know you definitely won't be excited for this, but so this is going to be a Netflix original movie. The new Jennifer Lopez movie, The Mother.
Where's my baby? You wasted FBI time trying to cut a deal for yourself, and 7 agents were killed. This conversation now takes place on our terms. Adrienne Lavelle and Hector Alvarez are still out there. You and I both know the only way you protect that child is to disappear.
And if I don't?
They'll find you.
I've never heard.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix isn't good with marketing, so I'm not surprised. But, this looks like Netflix's first big, like, action movie that they're releasing this summer, and it looks good to me as a fan of the genre. I know not everyone will look at this and be like, oh, this is going to be great because, Netflix has a track record, especially with action movies, of just, like, pumping out these, like, generic, like, plots and kind of mediocre movies just with, like, A-list stars attached. And this
Yeah.
probably won't be any different.
My most anticipated movie, we already talked about it, but I mean, it's coming up. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
We were gone for quite a while. But no matter what happens next, the galaxy still needs its guardians. Hello, we come in peace. Come on, Drax. Seriously, dude? No!
This is the last movie in the trilogy. These movies, like I've said, have meant a lot to me ever since the first movie came out. And I feel like either way I'm going to enjoy this. The worst thing I feel like I could possibly say about this movie is that it was good. I feel like that's the worst thing I could possibly say, or maybe that it was decent. I hear it's going to be very heartbreaking, which I am not emotionally prepared for. James Gunn really knows how to just pull out our heartstrings. He did it to us in the first movie and in the second film. Hearing that he cried while writing the screenplay, that just doesn't that doesn't make us feel any more emotionally prepared.
So I'm just gonna list the rest of my anticipated movies off. So number 3, I have Hypnotic, which is the new Ben Affleck movie.
What's the call?
I'm calling to report a bank robbery.
Is this crime currently in progress?
Today.
See that guy on the bench?
Do you have a lighter?
That guy's up to something. It's very hot today. It's like a furnace.
It's like a furnace.
There's a safe deposit box.
Is that the target?
Box 23.
You know, some people may not know what this is exactly because it hasn't been like marketed that well so far. But, you know, Robert Rodriguez is directing this, and he's a pretty competent action director in the genre, and hopefully it makes for a good movie. I mean, it's getting released in theaters, so that's good. And I hope it's a good movie because I think it's important for studios to release more experimental movies in theaters. The number 2 for me is obviously the second biggest movie probably coming out in May, which is Fast X.
I know that this road has been very hard. And yet here you are, building this magnificent family.
What's going on in that head of yours?
Something little B said it. He said, Dad, you're not afraid of anything. But I am. I'm afraid of losing someone I love.
Dominic Toretto. You're about to learn all about fear. Boom! You built such a beautiful life, filled with love and family.
I never got that chance.
You stole that from me. My future. My family. And now, I'm gonna break yours. Piece by piece.
Now, I know a lot of people aren't really fans of the Fast and Furious franchise these days, but I guess you could say it's a guilty pleasure franchise for me. I take enjoyment from it, and this is supposed to be, you know, part 1 of 2, which is going to be like a sort of finale for this main franchise, at least with Vin Diesel as the lead. The cast for this movie is kind of insane, you know, John Cena, Charlize Theron, Brie Larson, which is crazy, and Jason Statham, you know, like the list goes on, and this honestly looks like the perfect dumb, fun summer movie that I think everyone needs. I'm definitely looking forward to that. And then my number 1 is obviously going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Don't forget where we came from.
We have been running our whole lives. Pete, I'm done running.
Because this is going to be James Gunn's swan song for this, you know, this trilogy of these characters we've grown to love, and it's also going to be his, you know, swan song from Marvel, you know, because he's going to now the head of DC Studios, and he's going to be in charge of things over there, and he's going to next be directing a Superman movie, which I'm definitely interested in. But for this, you know, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies have been some of the most consistently good movies in the MCU in the last few years, so I'm sure that this won't be any different, and this is going to be great. I'm sure it's going to be emotional. I've heard some people say that this was like the best Marvel movie since Endgame, and, you know, I think that's a good thing, because I think the MCU definitely needs that right now, especially after how mediocre, you know, Thor: Love and Thunder and Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and just how awful Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was. So I think they definitely need a win right now. So now we're going to transition to talking about 2 smaller movies that came out in April, which, you know, haven't gotten a lot of attention from people, but they're both really good movies, in my opinion. So we're going to start off with Beau's Afraid, you know, which is the new Ari Aster movie with Joaquin Phoenix.
She's very pretty. Is that the type of girl you're attracted to?
I am so sorry for what your daddy passed down to you. But I wanted a child.
I'm visiting my mother tomorrow. Do you ever wish that she was dead? What?
Beau? Are you on your way?
I'm on my way. It's not safe, is it?
I sincerely doubt that.
I'm sure you'll do the right thing, sweetheart.
Obviously, you've probably seen a lot of people saying this is like either the worst movie they've ever seen or the most weird and unique movie they've probably seen so far this year. But I mean, it's definitely controversial. For me personally, I wasn't sure what to expect going into it. I wasn't like a huge fan of Hereditary like everyone else was, but I was a fan of Midsommar, which came out in 2019 and starred Florence Pugh. Like, I was a big fan of that movie.
Yeah.
So I was hoping this would be on like the same level. And for me, like, I'm not going to say it's my favorite movie of the year so far, and it probably won't end up being like even in my top 5 of the year. But I did think that even though I did love or hate it, like most people, I did appreciate, Ari Aster taking a risk with this movie, because Hollywood is so risk averse these days. It was good to see like a director actually try to push the boundaries and release something like this that wouldn't have gotten made if A24 was distributing this movie, right? Joaquin Phoenix, he was great in the movie, but I mean, it's Joaquin Phoenix. He's great in everything, so I don't think anyone should have expected anything different. And I don't think I'll be talking about this, by the end of the year as like the top 10 movies of 2023. I thought it, hit most of the points that Aster was trying to, get out there and the message she was trying to send with this movie. Definitely one of the most controversial and just overall like weird movies and probably the weirdest and batshit crazy movie that will be released this year, unless I'm forgetting about something.
Yeah, you've been hearing a lot about this movie, like Dan said. Some people either think this is his best movie, like literally full on Aster crazy, literally him like not giving a shit and just putting the movie he wants out there, whether you like it or not. And people commend him for it, or people have calling this his career killer film.
Yeah, definitely not career killer because he already has 2 other movies in like pre-production. So I don't know.
Yeah, this is definitely not a career killer for Aster. I don't think this is his best movie. I will say though, I do think that it's better than Midsommar because I was not such a huge fan of Midsommar. There's much more substance in this film than his previous movie, although Hereditary is still his number 1 in my opinion. But I will say that Aster, I give him a lot of credit for making this movie. I even could give a lot of credit to A24 for even letting him make a movie like this because they gave him such a huge budget, and it's a risk because a lot of people, even Aster, doesn't think that this movie is going to make back its budget because $35 million and the movie has already made like $3 million so far. Yeah, so I really give them credit, even though maybe throughout Blu-ray DVD sales it'll make back its budget, but I'm not quite sure about that. The movie is definitely not for everybody. And like if you're an average moviegoer who wants to see something interesting and you love Joaquin Phoenix, I still don't recommend you go and see this movie. And even when the movie ended, one person in my theater literally booed and we all laughed because we were just like, yeah, this person hated it.
This movie is definitely not for like the general movie-going audience. I think the only people who will really, like this or love it are going to be like hardcore, Ari Aster fans or just fans of like Joaquin Phoenix in this type of movie.
For me, I enjoyed it. I still keep thinking about it, even though I've seen this movie. I only saw it once last weekend, and I'm still thinking about it to this day. This movie, I will say, makes it seem like Hereditary and Midsommar were a studio project that they gave to Ari Aster. Not a single thing about this movie feels like it was made by a studio. Not one little thing. The only thing that A24 had say in was the official runtime for it. Other than that, this is made by a man who is out there and who really wants to see his mother suffer.
I can only imagine his mom watching this movie.
And he doesn't really want to talk about his family life, so that just says a lot.
Yeah. definitely had heavy inspiration. I am intrigued if, like, because I don't think this movie is going to make its budget back, so I am intrigued if his next two projects is already in pre-production. I'm curious if another studio is going to distribute them, like maybe Neon, or maybe a bigger studio like Focus Features, something like that. I think that would be a good career step in the right direction for Aster, so he could start getting like more exposure for his projects. The next movie we're going to talk about was distributed by Neon. Probably not a lot of you have heard of it. It's called How to Blow Up a Pipeline.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Boom Talk. Today, teaching myself to make a homemade blasting cap. And if this works, it'll be step one in making our own improvised explosive.
Might be headed to Texas for the winter. What's in Texas? It's a project. What kind of project?
Try to stop the pipeline from being built on my property. Poisons the air, water.
Damn, this place is sick. You guys cooking meth in here?
You ready to start working?
We have to show how vulnerable the oil industry is by hitting something big.
Michael, what do you think the odds are we blow ourselves up?
I don't really care.
Going into this, I didn't really know what to expect because I heard that like the FBI was like concerned about this movie. And then after seeing it, I understood why they were, because this movie has an overall message for how the world is today regarding like environmentalists and like climate change and stuff like that, and these like important world issues. But yeah, this movie is basically a group of like mostly college kids who blow up a pipeline. I mean, it's in the title of the movie.
Yeah.
And I will say that this movie isn't for everyone, because I feel like only a certain type of people will appreciate this movie and understand the message that it's going for. This, again, isn't for the average moviegoer, but I mean, I did walk away enjoying this more than I thought I would. I thought it had a great message. I thought it was well shot, well made, well edited. Score was good throughout. And I have to applaud Neon for, again, being one of the most riskiest studios in Hollywood today.
Absolutely.
For distributing this, because let's be honest here, no mainstream studio would distribute this movie.
Not at all. Not one mainstream studio would give the approval at all. They just give it to somebody else, which is probably what happened.
Props to Neon for having the balls to distribute this movie, because if they didn't, I don't think this would have seen the light of day, honestly. I am glad that this movie did like kind of force you to choose a side. It didn't like make you root for the FBI, it didn't make them look like the good people in the situation, but it also did make these people who were basically committing an act of terrorism look good either. It's like,
no, not at all.
Yeah. So overall, really great experience watching this, and really, I think, important movie for today, 2023, to get this message out there, because,
absolutely,
this is, an important topic because it's dealing with like the future of our world, so.
Yes, it's an important movie that I think will be talked about and will come up again sometime in the near future.
Moving on to our final topic for today, I think it's fair to have a discussion like this because probably since like last July when Thor Love and Thunder released, I think it's fair to say when Marvel really started to go downhill in terms of quality. Mostly everyone hated Thor Love and Thunder. Like, I didn't love it, but I didn't like completely think it was a piece of dog shit. Like, I thought there were some redeeming qualities about it, but it definitely wasn't as good as Thor Ragnarok, in my opinion. And then since then, we've gotten just like this like mediocre, like McDonald's type comic book movie getting released into theaters. Like,
you've said that so many times, but it's so true.
I mean, it is true, because like, look at Black Adam.
Well, that's not Marvel, but that is a comic book movie.
Yeah, I'm just trying to show like both studios how they've been lacking, I guess. And then Black Panther was okay, but like definitely not as good as the first movie. And then Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which definitely wasn't as good as the first Shazam and wasn't a great movie, but it was okay.
Compared to a lot of the superhero movies that have come out recently, it was definitely superior to those movies, but I feel like that's not really saying a lot.
So taking all of those movies into consideration, and where the comic book genre currently stands, I think it's fair to say that if Guardians of the Galaxy 3 like underperforms at the box office, the question becomes, well, what the hell do Kevin Feige and James Gunn do moving forward? Because they're both in charge of, Marvel and DC at this point. And I think it's, this is a good, topic to discuss, because even the rest of this year, like the rest of the comic book movies releasing this year, I don't think are going to be that well received, except for maybe The Flash, but that's about it.
I mean, would Spider-Verse count even for
I mean,
superheroes?
I think that counts, but it's Sony, so I don't know. Oh, and I also,
True.
yeah, I also forgot that Sony also has that Kraven the Hunter movie coming out this year, but I don't think that's going to be well received. I think if Guardians of the Galaxy 3 does underperform, even if it's a good movie, right, it would be fair to say that Kevin Feige and James Gunn should start shitting their pants a little bit, because I've heard like people say like, oh, comic book fatigue, this, that for years now. And people like, oh, when is it finally going to set in? When is like everyone just going to be sick and tired of this superhero genre? And to that answer, I've always said, like, as long as the movies getting released are good quality and good movies, then,
Yeah.
no one will get tired of them. But now we're at a point where the last 6 comic book movies released have been mediocre at best. I think it's concerning, because if Guardians of the Galaxy 3 underperforms, I think people are going to start asking, like, is the superhero genre dying? And who knows, maybe this entire discussion will be rendered useless in a week. Although I will say that after this movie releases for Marvel, it's definitely not looking good for them in terms of the movies they're going to be releasing the rest of this year and next year, I'd say. The Marvels, like, I'm definitely not a Brie Larson hater or anything like that, but I just don't think that movie's going to do that well. Definitely not as well as the first movie. And then Captain America, like, will people watch a Captain America movie without Chris Evans? Do people care? I don't know about that. The Thunderbolts just sounds like a PG version of the Suicide Squad. And then I think next year also Blade's supposed to release, but again, I've seen a lot of people say, like, if that movie isn't rated R, people just aren't going to give a shit, because it's going to be looked at as inferior compared to the Wesley Snipes Blade movies, So it's just looking pretty bleak for Marvel. So I will say that if Guardians of the Galaxy 3 does do bad, all the negative talk surrounding them is just going to get even louder,
Here's what I think is going to happen with Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I think it's going to go like the first movie financially, where at first the movie on first or second weekend is going to be very slow. It's going to not make its budget back. It's going to definitely, people are going to consider it a failure. And you're going to already get news from different types of media sources of how this is the end of Marvel Studios. They are done. James Gunn, who knows what's going to happen with DC? He's probably going to ruin DC as well. You're going to get so many different stupid stuff about that.
Yeah.
Then once more people see it, because probably those who did support it the first or second week probably going to have a lot of good things to say about it. And with that, with more talk, is going to lead to more ticket sales. And I think the fact that with more ticket sales, and if people actually go see this movie and keep supporting it because they love it, I think that's going to help it a lot. And soon, maybe, just maybe, depending on how much love it gets from its audiences, if anything, and this is just, I don't know, the best of the best, if that ever comes. If it does make $1 billion, I think that will probably help a lot. But again, people aren't going to be saying, oh, Marvel Studios, this is because of them. That's not going to be the case at all. It's going to be because of James Gunn. And that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's kind of just a wait and see situation. We'll find out, next Friday when the movie opens, what the box office is looking like, and if it's looking bad or it's a big win for the MCU that they desperately need right now. But yeah, I think that's really all we have to discuss on this podcast.
We'll just see how everything goes. You'll definitely get more reviews from us on the website. You'll see what we think about that, and on our podcast when we discuss more. I hope the movies are good. I hope I love them. I hope you love them. I hope we'll have great things to say about it. All we can do is hope. But,
right now,
that's it. That's all for today. That's all for this podcast episode. Please like, please subscribe to us. Please follow us. Tell us what you think. What do you think about all this information? Did you see Beau is Afraid? Did you see How to Blow Up a Pipeline? Are you interested in
Yeah.
those films? What are your anticipated movies of this month? What are they? We'd love to hear them.
Yeah.
What do you think about Guardians Volume 3? Have you seen
Yeah.
it already? Were you part of maybe the world premiere of it? You know, you could have been. We
Yeah.
don't know. What did you think about it? And if you haven't, what are your thoughts on the movie in general? What are you excited for it? Are you not excited for it?
Yeah.
Have you already given up on Marvel Studios? You know,
Yeah.
who knows? Tell us. We'd love to hear about it. That's it for our podcast. Thank you so much for listening again, and we'll talk again very soon.